Hey everyone, I just wanted to jump on here and recap what we talked about last night in our Can I Ask That series. So last night we asked the question, can one be a Christian and believe in evolution? Now there are Christians on both sides of this debate. There are those who say, yes, you can believe in evolution and still be a Christian. And there are those who say, no, you can't be a Christian and believe in evolution. And in our conversation, we talked about the root of this debate and discussion is actually a matter of hermeneutics. And so you might be asking, well, what is a hermeneutic and what does that have to do with evolution and my understanding of creation? Well, our hermeneutic is the lens that we have when we come to a passage to interpret it. So we all have a different lens. Think about when you post something on Instagram or you edit a photo in a photo app, right? You can choose a different lens that will change how the picture looks. So each person has their own lens when it comes to Scripture and how they interpret Scripture, right? And this lens is defined and developed based on our life experiences. And they can be defined by what we believe about God, how we've encountered God, how we've heard passages of the Bible being talked about, what we believe about the Bible. Or our hermeneutic is often even informed by our own social, political, and economic stances as well. We bring those lenses to the text when we read Scripture. And so we talked about this as this is really what is at the root of this discussion of evolution versus Christianity. And so we talked about there are two main hermeneutics that people have when they're debating this. There is the literal hermeneutic, that all of Scripture must be taken literally. There's no symbolic or figurative nature in Scripture. But then there is the figurative lens in camp. They are the ones who say, well, there are parts of Scripture that aren't meant to be taken literally. Maybe it is symbolic, or maybe it's poetry. There are different genres in Scripture that aren't meant to be taken literally. And so these are the two camps that are debating this issue, right? And so when it comes to creation and evolution, the literal camp will say this, that Genesis 1 and 2 is literally how the world came into being. There's no room for evolution because this is how the created order was established. Okay? And then there's the figurative camp. And they are saying that they could say that Genesis 1 and 2 aren't meant to be taken in a literal way. Instead, the main purpose of this is to say that God is the creator and we are creation, right? And so you can also have a figurative hermeneutic and not necessarily apply that hermeneutic to Scripture. You could still say Genesis 1 and 2 are to be taken literally. And so someone who I think has described this tension really well is John Walton, who's a Bible scholar. And he said there are two ontologies in Genesis 1 that we have. There is the physical ontology. Ontology means the study of being. So how do we know things are in existence? And so there is the physical ontology. So that is Genesis 1 and 2 for some means that this is how the world came into being. Or there is the functional ontology. Genesis 1 and 2 talk about how creation is to function as creation and how God is to function as creator. And so these are basically the two hermeneutics that people have when they come to Genesis chapter 1 and 2. It's either a physical ontology, a physical hermeneutic, or a functional. And so we then talked about how the Church of the Nazarene thinks about creation. And this is what the Church of the Nazarene believes. The Church of the Nazarene believes in the biblical accounts of creation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. But we are open to scientific explanations on the nature of creation while opposing any interpretation of the origin of the universe and of humankind that rejects God as creator. Hebrews 11:3. So basically what the Church of the Nazarene stance says is this: what matters is that you affirm that God is creator. You can still have a literal or figurative hermeneutic when it comes to Genesis 1 and 2. And so if that's the case, then the Church of the Nazarene would then say that there is room for people to believe in evolution as long as the main assertion is this, that God is the creator. That is what matters. And so as long as God is the creator, you can believe in evolution and still be a Christian, is what the Church of the Nazarene would say. But the Church of the Nazarene also doesn't impose that belief. They don't say you have to believe in evolution to be a Christian. They leave it up to each individual's hermeneutic or interpretation. And so then we just spent the rest of our time talking about, well, what does this mean? What are the implications for this? And we discussed, do we have a literal or a more figurative hermeneutic when it came to Scripture? And so at the end of the day, there's space for both of us at the table. There's space for those of us who believe that evolution and Christianity do not mix. But there's also space at the table for those of us who say, yes, you can believe in Christian or in evolution and still be a Christian. And so this is what we talked about, and I encourage you all to engage in this conversation with your teenagers and ask them what they believe. And teenagers, if you're watching this, I encourage you to talk to your parents and ask them what they believe, because I think that dialoguing about issues such as this is important, and it will help us come to a better understanding of who God is. No matter where you are on this debate, God is still creator, and God still loves you and still cares for you and creation. Thank you for watching this, and I hope that you will have a great weekend. We'll see you on Sunday morning at 9:30 for our service.